Because all of you all are lawyers and you have already put forward
the message hasn't got through that in the new Malaysia, things must and will be done differently. And this is what we are expecting from our leadership. Now, in the case of Dharmendran, I believe the EAIC, which is the body that looks into misconduct, not just of the police, but as well as other enforcement agencies, that they made certain very key findings. And I believe the EAIC proceedings took place either simultaneously or shortly after the High Court cases, which actually released the perpetrators of these acts. Now, what the EAIC found was that Dharmendran had 52 bruises, unexplained bruises, and of course, these are some of the findings. I'm just saying the two key ones which are so stark, which immediately tells you that something's wrong, and found 2 staples embedded in his ears. Now, and then they went quite carefully into the forensic evidence and so on and came to the finding that it was death by physical force. That was the finding of the police. So that is one case. Now the other that I'd like to mention, and this took place several years ago, and this is the Teoh Beng Hock case that everybody knows about. In 2014, as you know, at the magistrate's level, the coroner level, it was an open verdict. What was pronounced was an open verdict. In the Court of Appeal, 3 judges sat and they wrote 3 separate judgments, strong judgments. And Justice Mao Enquai, as he then was, said this: every effort, and this is in 2014, with 4 years ago, he said every effort must be made to track down the perpetrator or perpetrators in a thorough police investigation. No one should be spared in the investigation so that there will be no allegations of a cover-up. For all those who may not know, you would recall what the Teoh Beng Hock case is about. He was called in for questioning by the MACC, appeared to be kept in custody overnight, and then his dead body, of course, was found the next day. There were allegations that it was suicide, and there were strange findings being made on the way in relation to that. But the Court of Appeal dispelled all of that and said, no, this is a death in custody. And in fact, there was a specific finding by the Court of Appeal where they said that the magistrate ought to have treated Teoh Beng Hock's death as a death in custody. Now, Justice Hamid, in that case, also lamented. He said, how can our legal system, based on the rule of law, and where we are signatories to human rights conventions, how can we permit such treatment of witnesses? And ultimately, it is about the rule of law. Ultimately, it's about having a criminal justice system. We're not saying wrongdoings don't take place. It happens. But families must be given answers. They cannot be left without answers. Now, in the Teoh Beng Hock case, 2014, the Court of Appeal said investigations should take place. As far as I know, and as far as I'm aware, till today, no investigations have been taken place, or very minimal steps have been taken. So we still don't have answers in that case. And this is despite the Court of Appeal delivering judgment. So what does it mean? Is there an alternative an alternative system in play while the legal system takes its course? Is there something else going on? Clearly there is. Clearly there is, because there doesn't appear to be any respect for judgments issued, for rulings made. Now, that is of course a different issue from rulings that are wrongly made as well. That will be the subject of what Eric also will be speaking about. How the system, as I understand it, Eric will be covering how the system is stacked against such victims. The entire system works. There's a blue wall of silence, it's called. This is how the system works against a victim, when in fact it should be the other way around. That we should be ferreting out the truth in all these cases. Now, the IGP recently said that he agrees that the IPCMC, that is the Police Misconduct Commission, he agrees that that should be set up. It is something civil society has been calling for a long, long time. It is imperative that this government treats it as top priority, or one of the top priorities in their quest to uphold the rule of law. That must surely be one of the top priorities, because that will give more bite. The EAC at the moment has got no prosecutorial powers, etc. They can make findings and that's it. What we need is an IPCMC that has far more powers. So for me, because we must show value for life, and that at the end of the day for me is very distressing, how we have so little value for human life. And if we're going to show that we have value for human life, then we must take all steps to ensure that the ordinary citizens are protected. And this is where I would urge the new government to please look at the IPCMC as a top priority before the IGP changes his mind about supporting it. Because in the past, the reason the IPCMC could not be implemented was because there was a lot of resistance from the police. To be fair to them now, they're saying they agree it can be set up. So what is holding that key reform back? We don't know. But I would certainly urge the government to look at it as a top priority. Now, as I said, at the end of the day, ultimately it's about the rule of law. Look, we have Article 5 in our Constitution, the right to life. This is what it's about. This is what all these, this report is about, actually. And of course, there are other little reforms that the government should be looking at. Eric will cover issues of the post-mortem. That is something we hope that the Minister of Health will be able to help. Those are immediate measures that can be taken. Now, what about CCTV systems? Isn't it time that comes back into force? That was something that was supposed to be implemented. Those are the things that can be implemented immediately. The other one are the IGSOs and the SOPs, the police SOPs and IGSOs. They say it's official secret, is that what they say? Or they don't disclose it. Those are things that should be disclosed. That should be made transparent, so that we understand, public can know whether the police are acting within the scope of their IGSOs and SOPs. So these are simple things that can be implemented immediately, which I believe will go a long way towards addressing issues of death in custody. Now with that, I'd like to congratulate this team, and all of you know this team. Every time there's a death in custody, this is the team that turns out, okay? And I congratulate them. They have been at it for a long time. They are relentless, and they have been a great support, I believe, to the families. And I congratulate them for bringing out this report and for covering some key cases. These are the more recent ones, yeah? Recent cases, so comprehensively. And with that, am I launching? I'm launching, apparently. So with that, it is with great pleasure and sadness, let me tell you, that I launch this report, and I hope that this will be the stepping stone to some immediate reforms which this reforming government must look into as a matter of urgency. Thank you very much.